What's up, y'all? It's your boy eBay Fight Predictions in the building, and I kind of miss the UFC right now, and I kind of want to make some content for y'all, and I still really want to talk about the UFC and MMA in general, but yeah, so I wanted to do a video about dark horses, because I love talking about dark horses, and I feel like I honestly feel like it's kind of crazy how dark horses um have been given to guys that are in the top five that like that title. And I feel like a dark horse is a guy that's like, in the lower top 15, is working his way up, but shows really great potential. And I'm going to list from all the men's classes, and I'll do a video for the women, obviously. Um, but yeah, so from 125, basically from flyweight to heavyweight, I'm going to tell y'all who are my dark horses for each division. So let's start off with the lowest weight class for men, the flyweight division. And yeah, I got David DVORAK as the dark horse of flyweight. I've been really, really impressed with him. What he was able to do, the Jordan Espinoza, use his boxing and just kind of take advantage of that fight. I was impressed. He's ranked number 11 in the world right now. I think his skills. I think he gives guys like Kai Kara France problems. I think a guy like Brandon Royval would struggle with him. Royval has a very what's it called, a wild style. He does mess with guys, but I think Dvorak's ability to stay calm. That's one thing I give him a lot of credit for, his ability to stay calm. And I think that calmness will set him apart from guys like Royval and Kai Kara France. Who are guys that are pretty ranked really highly. And I think maybe if he gets a few wins, maybe he could give problems to a guy like Davison Figueiredo. You never know if Figueiredo stays at flyweight. It depends, but I think Dvorak, I like what he's able to do. But yeah, next up in the next weight class at bantamweight, my dark horse of that division is Merab Dvalishvili. This guy Merab, man, he is a monster, man. He is a freaking monster. I think he's number 12, right? He's number 12, and what he was able to do to John Dodson, Casey Kenny, he's just, this takedown output is just insane. You know, I just it's really, and especially what he did to Dodson. He was able to keep a pace, and what I liked to see from him was his striking. His striking didn't look bad. Obviously, he was there to set up his takedowns, but he looked good, man. He looked really good, and he didn't get tired, man. I was really impressed with his stamina, and I think he gives guys like Jimmy Rivera problems, Pedro Munoz. Well, Pedro Munoz does have a good guillotine. I'll give him that. But Pedro, I saw Pedro get taken down a few times by guys like Frankie Edgar. Um, Even Marlon Moraes right now, whatever you want to say about Marlon, if he's done, I think even before, I think he'd give Marlon problems with his wrestling and stuff like that. I I think this guy is really really good. I think he's gonna be able to compete with these guys in the top five. Obviously, at bantamweight and these lower weight classes, they're gonna keep a pace on him, but I think he's someone to look out for at 135. But at 145, there's one guy, and y'all know him. I love him to death. Shane Burgos. That's my dark horse of featherweight. I know he's coming off a loss to Josh Emmett, but man, you look at the guys that have fought Josh Emmett. You look at the Massard Bektiks, the Michael Johnsons, right? Massard, you can say whatever you want about him. He hasn't looked too great since the Damon Jackson defeat. But, you know, Massard was a guy that people had a lot of high expectations for. Michael Johnson, top five, former top five lightweight. He was on a 2-fight win streak before that. He beat, I think, Artem Lobov and I think Andre Fili. So he was doing good there. And I picked. I'm not gonna lie to you. I picked Michael Johnson to beat him, and fucking Michael Johnson, in my humble opinion, won 14 minutes of that fight and lost the last minute and got knocked the fuck out. Kind of similar thing kind of happened with Shane Burgos. He was doing really great in that fight. I personally had him. I thought I get those rounds were really close, but I am 2-0. Going into the third, and those two knockdowns got it. Became 10-8, and I scored it. I was gonna score it a draw or something like that, but I thought like Shane really impressed me, and obviously Josh Emmett he really impressed me at 145. But I feel like Josh Emmett is more than a dark horse. I know I've called Josh Emmett a dark horse before, but now he's main evented not pay per views. He's main evented fight nights before with Jeremy Stevens. He's been in the top 5 before. He knocked out Ricardo Lamas. You know, he's a legitimate player at 145, and a lot of people know him. Shane, on the other hand, I don't know why he's not getting this much love for some odd reason. He doesn't, he's a great guy. He's a great fighter. He's a fun fighter to watch. But I just, yeah, he's not on the main card for UFC 257. He's fighting Hakeem Dawodu. Nothing against Hakeem Dawodu, but Hakeem's not ranked. It seems like he's defending his ranking spot. I feel like having a fight of the year contender with another awesome contender. I feel like you should be in a different spot than what Shane's in, and I feel like Shane's he's gonna have to work more, and but I think he's ready for that. I think any challenge they throw at him, I think he'll pass with flying colors. I think this kid, if he just works on his some defensive holes and maybe just keep obviously the guard game in MMA, it's not something that's highlighted, right? But it's not bad to keep your hands up, in my humble opinion. And obviously, I'm not a fighter, but I would love to see Shane kind of develop some type of guard with his hands, and yeah, do something from there. But I think Shane, if he fought Ryan Hall, would be absolute murder. If he fought Bryce Mitchell, it would be absolute murder. Dan Ige, absolute murder. Like, he would hurt these guys, and that's how I honestly feel. But let's go to the next weight class. Lightweight. The dark horse of lightweight is Islam Makhachev, ranked at number 13. This was a hard one. It was at Islam or Beneil Dariush, but I feel like Beneil's, he's been in the rankings for a minute. But, Islam, he's an interesting guy. He's had a lot of high expectations put on him. You know, not necessarily by himself, but by his team at AKA, by his manager Ali, and and nonetheless by his boy Khabib. Man, a lot of people have said he's gonna be the next champ. And they want him to be the next champ. And Islam's great. You know, I've always been impressed with Islam and stuff like that. He's got a fight coming up against Drew Dober, and that's gonna be great. But I think he still needs a lot to prove, and I think Dober is the test. He was gonna fight Rafael dos Anjos, and I actually picked Islam to win that fight. But I think Islam, his wrestling, his sambo wrestling, even his striking, his submission games, all look awesome. I think he's gonna be a real player in that lightweight division. But he got a lot of tough tests, man. He got a lot of tough tests to deal with. Even dealing with a guy like, let's say, Gregor Gillespie, that would be a great fight. But it's hard to say, man. Right now, but you know it's man, even if he was to fight Kevin Lee, and I think he beats Kevin Lee, but you know there's a lot of things to look at, I think Islam has fought really good, decent competition. Davi Ramos, Armin Tarushkin, but I just it kind of worries me when I look at that lightweight division, how competitive it is. It's not easy. It is not an easy division to deal with. Even if you go up, you got guys like Ali Quinta, who has great takedown defense, great boxing. Now Al, I think a lot of people think Al's kind of trash because he lost to like Hooker and Cerrone, but there are more strikers. Al, he has this obvious hole in his game where almost like Vitor Belfort style, where he kind of leaves his heads down, right, and his hands up. And you know how Vitor got caught with that kick, with the front kick with Anderson. That kind of happens with Al when he fights guys like, longer, taller guys like Hooker and Cerrone. But Al, when he fights, grapplers like Kevin Lee, he did pretty good, and I think he'd give problems to Makhachev. But I don't know, man. Makhachev just seems like he has the backpack on him right now, and I think a lot of people have high expectations. He looks strong. He looks strong as hell, and I was impressed what he did to Armin Tarushkin, and Armin's another good prospect to look at. Another good dark horse to look at. So you never know. But at welterweight, the dark horse for welterweight, this one's a little harder, but I ended up going with the number 10th ranked welterweight in the world, Vicente Luque, man. I wasn't too sold on Vicente at first. When I seen him get in wars with Brian Barberena and Mike Perry, I wasn't too hyped on him, and when he went up against Wonderboy, I ended up picking against him. But in his last two fights, man, he's well, especially his last fight, but he's really, I see something out of him where he could give guys a lot of problems in that top five, especially one guy in particular. But let me talk about his last, his at least his last fight against Randy Brown. He took no damage. He was a killer in there. And you can say whatever you want about Randy Brown, but Randy Brown had a win over Brian Barberena, and he had more of a dominant win. So, a lot of people were using MMA math. I knew a lot of people that were going to pick Randy Brown. They were assuming that Randy Brown, I seen one guy on my Twitter who was talking about it, can he, what's it called? Perform a similar performance like Leon Edwards, right? Like Leon had against Vicente Luque. There were a lot of people expecting Randy to do that, and he wasn't able to do that. Vicente was able to just shut him down with leg kicks, pressure, and he put some goddamn hammers on that kid's face when Randy got knocked down. It's hard to watch, but and to Vicente's defense, Brian Barberena is a good fighter. Mike Perry at the time was a good fighter. He had a coach, he had a team. I forgot the team's name, but those guys are guys that coached Jacare Souza. Good guys in Florida, right? Not bad. Even before that, Mike Perry was getting work with in Albuquerque with John Winklejohn. Those guys are good. Mike Perry, he's not a bad fighter. He has a win over Paul Felder, who's a tough son of a gun. And I think Mike Perry at that time, I think, was considered a prospect or not a prospect, a guy that can compete with ranked guys. And I really do believe at that time Mike Perry was on his way to getting ranked. And I will be honest, I thought Perry won that fight against Vicente. But Vicente's toughness is that really is something that really impresses me in all of his fights. He shows it every single time, and I've just always been impressed with it. The way he was able to deal with those shots from Perry, the way he was able to recover from those shots against Brian Barberena, the way he was able to recover against Wonderboy Stephen Thompson. I was impressed, man. You can't really go. Vicente Luque is a killer. I know a lot of people thought Jeff Neal was the dark horse, but I honestly believe if Luque and Neal fought, I think Luque would put he would rape Neal, and I think it would be a bad night for Neal. I honestly do. Neal got, I think, the better end of the deal fighting Wonderboy. I honestly feel like that. If he fought Luque, it would have been a bad night for him. But it is what it is at the end of the day. But the next weight class at 185 at the middleweight division, the dark horse for that, I gotta go with Kevin Holland. This guy, his potential has looked great. We've all known that he could be something special, but what he has shown lately, it's been insane. Doing what I've talked about a lot, doing what he did to Jacare Souza, a guy that went to a split decision against Jan Blachowicz. Some people thought he really won that fight. I know I had a homie that watched the fight with me that thought Jacare Souza won the fight, 4 rounds to 1. Honestly, there wasn't a lot that happened in that fight. My humble opinion, I thought it was a really, really boring fight, if I'm being honest, and I thought really kind of everyone lost in that fight. But Kevin has looked amazing. I honestly really believe that. I think he can become really great, and he's going to get matched up with Derek Brunson. Not too late, not too soon, but I think they're trying to do it January or something. I seen something on Kevin Holland's Instagram about fighting Brunson, but that would be a great fight. Brunson's a good wrestler. Brunson's the bona fide gatekeeper. Brunson's one of those guys that really hasn't lost to no one else but top 5 guys like Jacare Souza. I think Jacare Souza beat him twice. Yoel Romero, Robert Whitaker, Adesanya. And he's lost to decent guys, hasn't lost to anyone bad, but I think we're going to see how good Kevin Holland is. We saw what Brunson did to Edmund Shahbazyan, and I don't like to brag about this a lot, but I did pick Brunson to get it done, so I have a lot of respect for Brunson. But, as a contender and as a guy that can beat these other guys ranked lower than him, he really can do it. He's not no bum. And I feel like Brunson should fight Hermansson. I feel like he's already done his gatekeeping duties and he deserves to jump up in competition. Like maybe he should fight Jack Hermanson. But if they end up doing it, and if Brunson wants to be active, they end up doing the Kevin Holland fight. That's an interesting fight, and Kevin Holland is a game opponent and is a serious contender. Um, but next up in the next weight class at light heavyweight, I got two dark horses in this one. I've really been impressed with both guys. I'm going to start off with the number 11th ranked Magomed Ankalaev. This guy is a killer. What he did to my boy Ian Cutelaba was fucking murder. He murdered my boy. It's shameful, but I did pick Ian. I picked him every single time they were about to fight, and he crucified my boy, and that made me sad. I actually really felt bad. But Ankalaev, he's powerful. He's great with range. He looks like a legitimate prospect. He only really has one loss, and that's to Paul Craig. And that was, Craig is a dangerous opponent off his back, and he got caught. But Magomed, it looks really good. I really do wonder what's his next opponent. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they run it back, him and Craig. I don't know what they want to do, if they want to give. It's interesting seeing that light heavyweight. But let me get to the next dark horse, since I've talked enough about Magomed. My next dark horse of light heavyweight is Nikita Krylov. Man, this guy is a killer. He's only had one fight. I think in 2020 it was against Johnny Walker. But that was one of the fights I had a real big question mark. I didn't know who I was gonna pick in that one. I really thought I was gonna go with Walker, but I ended up going. I ended up going Krylov, but Krylov is, he's an interesting cat. You look at some of his losses, right? He's either avenged them or they were really close, right? His loss to OSP ended up coming back and ended up beating him, which was really interesting. He ended up having a loss to Glover Teixeira not too long ago, but it was a split decision, and we see what Glover's doing now. Glover's out here destroying guys like Thiago Santos, destroying guys like Anthony Smith. Even though Thiago Santos was a competitive fight, but the only reason it was competitive was that Thiago he landed a few punches and it hurt Glover. But those were a few punches. Nikita Krylov was really competing with Glover on the ground, and that's a hard fight to judge. It really is. If you really look at it, it's kind of hard. If you thought Krylov won the fight, I wouldn't be mad at you. I think Krylov is a legitimate guy, and he was ready to fight Volkan Ozdemir. That was a fight I was probably leaning towards Volkan Ozdemir, but because I love Volkan, but I think Krylov he's a game guy and he can beat anyone. Man, his wrestling's really good. His offensive grappling's really good. Really, where he kind of lacks is he gives up positions to become more offensive. In his grappling, especially against a guy like Jan Blachowicz, a guy that submitted him, by the way, not too long, I think 2 years ago. And I was actually, fascinated by that and how Jan kind of submitted him. But, that's something to really look at, when you talk about his grappling skills. But, Krylov offensively is great. Only thing he has problems is defensively. He gives up a lot of, bad positions to guys. And that's pretty much the only thing I have against him. He was supposedly, he was going to match up with Corey Anderson. They wanted him to fight Corey when he was in the UFC still, and I think that would have been a hard fight for Corey Anderson. And Corey's a guy I have a lot of respect for, but it is what it is. But next up at the heavyweight division, the dark horse over there. This one's gonna be an obvious one. I gotta go with Cyril Gane. How could I not add this guy? What he did to my guy Junior Dos Santos, a guy that I've expressed on this channel. I love one of my first heavyweight fighters. I really saw one of the first heavyweight fighters that I admire his footwork, and I'll never forget the performance Junior Dos Santos had against Shane Carwin, where his footwork was great. How he was able, to change those angles and even take Shane Carwin down for fun and just kind of school him and show him that there's levels to this shit. And he had great speed and stuff like that. And I kind of felt like Cyril Gane, I don't want to say he had a similar performance that Junior did against Carwin, but Gane was just, in terms of, like, when you talk about his footwork, his leg kicks, his speed, against Junior, it kind of reminded me of a young Junior Dos Santos. And obviously, Gain is completely different. But, Gain, what he was able to do with his kicks, how he was able to dismantle Dos Santos in that fight, it was just impressive. I was just really, really impressed with that. Um, it's just one of those guys I had to add in, man. And obviously, the story with him and, being a former sparring partner of Francis Ngannou, and how his coach has split ways with Francis. Francis, by the way, that was Francis's original coach. If you haven't seen the interview, I implore you to watch that interview with Francis Ngannou's, one of his former coaches that parted ways with him, and talks about it. I really do implore you guys to go watch that. If you can find it, go find it. It was a really awesome interview, and gave legitimate perspective on Ngannou. And I honestly think it's so funny how Ngannou and Gain are just basically polar opposites of each other. Gain is a guy that has a lot of decisions, and Ngannou is the complete opposite. He has a lot of knockouts, right? So, obviously you're kind of like looking into the future with Gain, right? You're looking at the matchup with him versus Ngannou, former sparring partners, former teammates, the the betrayal of Francis Ngannou with his coach, and this and that. It would be an interesting storyline they could make, and Gain is working his way up. He did finish Junior Dos Santos, and that his opponent Francis Ngannou finished too. So it's an interesting fight, and I love the fight. But yeah, that's it for the dark horses of the male divisions. I'll try to make a video. If I don't end up making the video for the female ones, I'm sorry about that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a fun time looking for these guys and their pictures and stuff like that. This will be the first video of 2021. I can't wait for the new journey with you guys, the new videos, the new predictions, the new recaps, the reactions, everything that we're gonna do on this channel. I can't wait for it. It's gonna be an awesome journey. But don't forget, by the way, to follow my Twitter, to follow my Instagram. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Go click the notification button. Share if you can. It would be awesome if we reach the eBay Fight Prediction Nation out there. Let's get it stronger. We're at 325 right now in terms of when I'm recording this. But let's get this channel stronger. I love y'all. I love the support. See y'all and goodbye. eBay Fight Predictions is out.